Now let's talk more about variable values. Now we've only seen some simple examples here. For example, we've seen variables contain values that are numbers, that are string, that are booleans. But they can contain much more complex values and expressions as well. So in this case, let's start with the simple variable a equals 10. So we're declaring a variable named a and we're assigning it the value, the number 10. And let's create another variable, variable b, and assign it the value 7. Now, just like you can use the arithmetic operators on numbers and strings in order to do mathematical calculations and concatenations, you can actually use variables in place of the numbers and strings as well. So in this case, typing in 10 plus 7 would give us the result 17. And the same result can be achieved by typing in a plus b, because a equals 10 and b equals 7. So this works just like basic algebra. In algebra, we have different variables with different values, and we can use the variables in an expression, such as a plus b. The same thing works in JavaScript. So because we have two variables, a and b, with values 10 and 7 respectively, we can use and refer to these variables instead of the numbers themselves in any expression in JavaScript. So a plus b is the same as 10 plus 7, which gives us the result 17. Of course, other arithmetic operators work as well. So b multiplied by a, which is b asterisk a, means 10 asterisk 7. 10 multiplied by 7 is 70, and that's the result we get. Now you can also declare a variable, and instead of assigning it a simple value, you can assign it an expression. So in this case, we're declaring a variable, variable c, and instead of assigning it a straight value, we are assigning it an expression, and that is a minus b. Now a minus b equals 10 minus 7, which is 3. So whenever JavaScript executes this statement, it assigns the value 3 to the variable c, because it executes a minus b, and a minus b returns 3, and that's the value variable c will have. And now, if we type in c in order to access its value, we get the value 3, because c equals a minus b, and a minus b equals 10 minus 7, and 10 minus 7 equals 3. So, c equals 3. Now, there are a few rules you have to follow when naming the variables. For example, variable names are case sensitive. So in this case, if we have a variable named car and we assign it the string Tesla, then we can refer to this variable by, of course, typing in the variable name, car, and it'll give us the value Tesla. However, because variable names are case sensitive, any variation of the case of the variable name will not work. So for example, all these variable names will throw a reference error. So car with a capital C doesn't work, car with all letters capitalized doesn't work, or with any single or multiple letters capitalized doesn't work as well. These are all different variables, and because these variables are not declared in our script, it throws a reference error. So when you declare a variable, you have to be careful with the name, because in order to access and refer to that variable, you must type in the name exactly as is. Changing the case won't work because variable names are case sensitive. Now there are a few rules when it comes to naming variables. For example, a variable can only contain numbers, letters, the dollar sign, and the underscore. Furthermore, a variable name can only start with the letter, the dollar sign, and the underscore, but not a number. So in this case, the variable named hello is a valid variable name. Variable named O2 is valid as well, because although it contains a number, it starts with a letter. So variable names can contain numbers, but it must start with the letter, underscore, or the dollar sign. Now variable $sky is also a valid variable name, and so is underscore clouds. These are all valid identifiers in JavaScript. Now although these are valid variable names, you should avoid starting variable names with a dollar sign, because a lot of JavaScript libraries use this convention, and it can mess things up and confuse people. So it's better not to start variable names with a dollar sign or an underscore. And here are some examples of invalid identifiers. For example, variable 2n is an invalid identifier because the name 2n starts with the number 2, and variable names can't start with a number. It must start with a letter, underscore, or $sign. So variable 2n is invalid. Variable names can't also be reserved keywords of JavaScript. So class, for example, is a reserved JavaScript keyword, and you can't use it as a variable name. So using reserved keywords as variable names will also throw in an error. Also, invalid characters such as A and B will result in an error being thrown. Now, if you're wondering why these names are not valid in JavaScript, well, there are a lot of reasons for that. For example, there's a very good reason not to allow starting a variable name with a number. Because in JavaScript, numbers are written as is, if you start a variable name with a number, JavaScript might get confused as to whether you're just typing in a number or you're referencing to a variable. That's why variable names can't start with numbers or only contain numbers. And of course, using reserved keywords as variable names would also create a lot of confusion, because if you use a reserved keyword as a variable name, then when you refer to that variable, JavaScript would get confused as to whether you're referring to the variable or actually the JavaScript keyword itself. That's why these names are invalid identifiers in JavaScript. Now, variable values can be changed. So once you declare a variable and assign it a value, it's not permanent. You can change the value as many times as you want. So for example, let's have a variable fruit equals the string orange. So we have a variable named fruit which equals the string orange. Now currently, if we type in fruit in order to access the value of this variable, we get the string orange because that's the value we assigned it in the previous statement. However, we can reassign a new value to this same variable. So now fruit equals orange, but we can reassign a new value to it. So fruit equals apple. So we've changed the value of fruit from orange to apple. And now if we type in fruit, in order to access the value of this variable, we can see the value has been changed from orange to apple. So variable values can be changed. So when you create a variable and assign it a value, it will store that value until you assign it a new one. So in this case, we've assigned a new value apple to the variable fruit. And from now on, the value of fruit has changed from orange to apple. Now redeclaring an already declared variable doesn't do anything to it. So we already have a variable named fruit. But if you redeclare this variable var fruit, so we try to create that variable again, it doesn't have any effect. It doesn't change the value of the variable as well. So the variable fruit still has the value apple. The value hasn't changed or been deleted to undefined. So redeclaring an already declared variable doesn't do anything to it, and it doesn't change the value of the variable as well.